Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to celebrate the life of a arguably good person. Melody died too soon. Hey, what are you talking about, your Melody? Are you not Melody too? Hey, what the Melody has died 21 times in her lifetime. That's right, one time for every century AD. Welcome back to my channel, Melody Ever After. As the thumbnail probably warned you, today I'm going to be taking an educated stab at ways I would die in every single century of, the current era. Centuries 1 through 21, because we're in the 21st. I'm going to be talking about my favorite ways that people died in every single century. This is going to be part 1 of a 2-part series. Let's kick it back to year 0. Hail, Beelzebub, Asmodeus. Sorry, Ghost fans, not that year 0. We're kicking it back to the literal year 0, 1 through 100. So what was going on in the 1st century? And this isn't 1st century BC, this is 1st century AD. Don't get them mixed up, because I did when I started writing this video. It wasn't pretty. Under Augustus, Rome was in full main character mode, flexing with roads, aqueducts, and architecture like it was the Met Gala every single day. They were proud of that. In China, the maybe real, maybe mythological Shi dynasty was kicking off dynastic rule. Bureaucracy.exe was officially running strong, and in Crete, the Minoans were spinning clay on potter's wheels and crafting bronze like proto-Hobby Lobby enthusiasts. Love that for them. They were crafters. So where would I be during all of this? Probably Rome or Crete, if I had to guess. But for the sake of keeping it real, I'm gonna say that the way that I would have died in the 1st century would have been being crucified in Rome. Melody, you have such a god complex. Shut the fuck up. Look at me. I don't have a god complex. I'm a YouTuber. There is a difference. Look, I'm loud. I'm opinionated. I always have been. I run a shitty little, barely an excuse of a YouTube channel where I yap about my opinions all the time. You don't think I would say one thing about Caesar's sandals and end up nailed to a tree? You're dead wrong. Contrary to what many people think, Jesus wasn't crucified on the cross because he was Jesus, the Son of God. He was crucified because they thought he was a liar. I, on the other hand, sometimes am a liar. People were crucified back then for blasphemy, treason, and even petty theft. I am confident that I would have said something snarky enough that I would have ended up with a scenic view of Golgotha. Okay. I give this death 3 stars on the OMG I'm so dead scale. Not the worst, not the best, but definitely iconic. Even though I probably wasn't crucified for something as cool as being the, Messiah. On to the 2nd century! In Rome, Septimus Severus was doing a full imperial road trip, shaking hands on a world tour and expanding the empire like it was a Roman MLM. In China, Cao Cao yeeted his rival at the Battle of Guandu and launched the high body count 3 kingdoms era. Love that for him. And in Africa, the Aksumite Empire was rising in what's now Ethiopia, minting coins, dominating trade, and setting up to be a global world power. Now, in the last century, I died in Rome. But I'm not just gonna stick to one region. I want full representation of all the wonderful ways to die in early civilization. Now, I don't know my actual accurate genealogy. I'm not like a lost princess of Norway. I don't have like some kind of record book. Pretty sure it's not Latin America. But is that gonna stop me? No. Follow me to the ancient Mayan period. Their death rituals were just too cool not to talk about. The Maya didn't have any half-assed beliefs about the afterlife. They were serious. They believed that there were multiple routes after death depending on how you died. After death, for a respected person, pieces of maize were placed in the mouth because it was sacred and it represented rebirth. If you were wealthy or if your family could afford it, alongside with the maize were also jade beads because these apparently functioned as currency in the afterlife. That's right, those jade beads, that's your after-death bus fare. Now, if you've seen Road to El Dorado, you're probably a Gen Zer like me. But let's start off by saying that I look nothing like Shell, so drop the goon juice. Okay, this isn't about that. Secondly, I want to say that I have 0 hand-eye coordination and I am probably one of the least athletic people that I know. That being said, I probably would have lasted about 30 seconds in the game called Pocket Talk, or the ball game. According to ancientorigins.net and the World History Encyclopedia, Pocket Talk wasn't just a sweaty soccer game with some hip thrusts. It was sacred, religious, and sometimes deadly. In ritual games, there were high stakes, and there is evidence that the loser was sacrificed. That would have been me. That's right, play hard or get your heart removed from your body. Historians believe that these sacrifices at the end of the Pocketalk Games increased as the Mayan civilization began to crumble. It was almost like people were dying, they were not thriving as much, and they thought that more death would help their situation. I know, take a life, get a life, karma, what goes around comes around. I think after a couple times, maybe stop trying that. So how do I go in the 2nd century? I'm gonna say that I lose at Pocketalk. My heart becomes a party favor for a maze god who loves contact sports. I give this 4 stars on the OMG I'm so dead scale. Brutal, thematic, and honestly, kind of iconic. Welcome to the 3rd century. Rome is now having a nervous breakdown. The crisis of the 3rd century hit like a medieval reality TV show. Assassinations, barbarian invasions, plagues, 26 emperors in 50 years. That is almost how many boyfriends your mom has had. At this point, the empire is so unstable that it breaks into 3 pieces. Enter the Gallic Empire, or the Gallic Empire, Rome's rebellious teenage son. And I like me a bad boy. Posthumous? I don't know, maybe one of those was right. A Roman general who said, you know what? I am the Senate, and started his own empire in Gaul, Britain, and parts of modern-day Germany and Spain. Imagine Roman military discipline with some Celtic flair. Groves, communal feasts, maybe a druid or 2 lurking in the brush. Me, I could never be a soldier, and I could never be nobility, alright? I'm a bard. One fateful night at a big communal feast, I practice a satirical song about a paranoid warlord. The crowd is digging it. Big laughs, right? Except for this guy. I look over at old Yeller over there, and he's kind of clapping in the corner like this. Next morning, what do you know? I am tied to an oak tree. I'm crowned with ivy, which is symbolical of poetic madness, and I'm sacrificed in the name of crops morale, or whatever excuse they were looking for that day. I go out in a blaze, screaming the same song that got me killed. OMG, I'm so dead scale? I'm giving this a 5 out of 5. Totally on brand with me. Moving on to the 4th century, 301 to year 400 AD. Rome is still kicking, but now there's a cross on it. Constantine the Great rolls up, and he legalizes Christianity. He wins some battles, he sees a cross in the sky, and he goes full Jesus mode. Pagan temples? They're now kind of sus. The old gods are not invited to brunch. I, unfortunately, am the kind of person who never updates my iPhone until 3 or 4 months later, and the new update has already came out. So you think I would just switch religions like that? Absolutely not. I am still a pagan theater kid at heart in this reality. I'm probably doing Dionysian wine chants in public and saying things like, have you considered the gods that have cooler outfits? Big mistake. I am now tossed in prison for offending the Christian peace and public indecency via interpretive dance. Okay, sue me. Just me, 4 walls, that rat in the corner, and a rusty spoon, which I used to carve poems into the cell. Death rating on the OMG I'm so dead scale, 2 out of 5 stars. I lived for the vibes, I died for the vibes, I left behind one hell of a carving. The 5th century, I'm done with Rome. I'm in China, baby. Years 401 to 500 AD, it was the smack dab of what I believe was called the 16 Kingdoms period, which is basically like Game of Thrones, but in ancient Asia, which is like dope. I'm a primitive, early version of what would soon be known as a Taoist healer. I'd like to think that I believe in peace and harmony because there is a side of me that does believe in that. Trying to cure spleens with herbs and vibes. It's a good life. Flowing robes and no survival instinct, unfortunately. Everyone really thinks that I am extremely wise or a spy. Remember that paranoid warlord that I made fun of in the Gallic Empire? Well, he was also reincarnated with me, and he hears about my mysterious knowledge of different types of tea and chi. He has me arrested mid-acupuncture session. That was rude. I'm arrested and pushed off of a Why did I make that noise? I'm immediately taken under custody and pushed off a pagoda. Death rating, 3 out of 5. Sad, untimely, but graceful. And definitely my fault, because I shouldn't have been so suspicious. Stupid. Welcome to the 6th century, years 501 to 600. I'm getting my revenge on Rome. This time, I'm a goth baddie, a Visigoth baddie. I'm tall, and just like in real life, I'm blonde and I got that Miley Cyrus stare. The kind of stare that says I've watched empires crumble, and I liked it. The Visigoths came from Eastern Europe, rolled into Hispania, and made the Aryan Christian lifestyle their entire personality. As a result, they were very brutish. And even though that over the years Rome has converted to Christianity, it's still on site. But I know I've been killed in Rome twice in 2 past lives, so I'm here for revenge, and revenge alone. I charge that little dusty Roman town on horseback saying, "Third time's the curse, you imperial losers!" But fate strikes back, and I, fall into a well. My horse, like, trips, and I just, whoop, into the well. Horse keeps running. Literally die in a hole. I'm sure a lot of my commenters are extremely happy about this. Death rating on the OMG I'm So Dead scale, 1 out of 5 stars. Vengeance arc was cancelled due to a vertical failure. Alright, let's roll into the 7th century. 601 to 700 AD. Islam is on the rise, China is getting fancy again, and especially in the East, things are really developing really quickly. Europe is chewing on bark or something. But I am once again in China, giving it a second chance, and calligraphy is hot. I'm a low-level calligraphy apprentice with big dreams and terrible brush control. I mean well, but most of my characters look like they were scribbled by a nervous chicken who forgot to take their meds. But still, I am determined to win the Emperor's Poetry Contest, which is a real thing that I looked up. I wrote a poem, and it's supposed to be about the beauty of springtime, but I mess up a couple of the characters, and the poem ends with a line that says, "Your mother is a goat with the face of regret," which doesn't have to be an insult, okay? I'm executed on the spot. No trial, just beheaded for bad vibes and accidental mother slander. Death rating? 2.5 out of 5 on the OMG I'm So Dead scale. Was it poetic justice, or was I just illiterate? Welcome to the 8th century. Now we're getting kind of modern for my taste. I'm a little bit old-fashioned. I'm in Byzantine Anatolia. I think that's how you say it. Which is somewhere in between Cappadocia and complete chaos. I'm a rural icon painter with not enough chill, and I live during a very unfortunate time where iconoclasm season is coming into style. It's decided by the emperor that religious art is unfortunately a sin now. And that was, you know, my job. Any religious painting, like of Jesus, is considered blasphemy. Hey, I paint holy things, not unholy things. This isn't blasphemy. Tell that to your painting of a goat with a halo. How you gonna explain that one? I flee into the cavernous hills of Cappadocia, where I spend a few weeks hiding out in an abandoned rock-cut monastery, eating whatever kind of birds and bugs I can find and stale bread, until I fall off of a cliff while trying to hang a particularly spicy painting of the Archangel Michael flipping off the rest of Constantinople, because I'm pressed. Death rating? 4 out of 5 on the OMG I'm So Dead scale. It's rebellious, religious, and gravity assisted. What more can you ask for? Alright, and this brings us to our halfway point of the How I Would Die in Every Single Century, ranking my favorite types of deaths throughout history. We're gonna go out with a bang on this one. Welcome to the 9th century, years 801 to 900 AD, Viking funeral for the win. It's the 800s, not 1800s, 800s, and Vikings are in full swing all over Europe. They are raiding, trading, and settling everywhere. I'm a fierce Viking woman from modern-day Scandinavia. In my dreams, wielding a sword and sailing longships, but one day I meet my end in battle against a rival clan. Viking death, as you know, wasn't just a quiet dirt nap, so I may have headbutted a bear or two in my life, but when I went out in battle, they were gonna take it seriously. And if you were important enough, especially a valued warrior woman like myself, you earned a legendary send-off. Dress me in my finest gear, pile the ship with grave goods like weapons, jewelry, and maybe some mead for the Valhalla after party. Send me out to sea and set the whole ship on fire in a blaze of glory. And the flames aren't just beautiful, they symbolize my passage to Valhalla. Maybe I've earned Odin's favor. Death rating on the OMG I'm So Dead scale? 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10. Perfect score. If you want to see how I think I would die in every other century leading up to the century that we are in now, keep watching. I'll have a new video posted soon. In the meantime, you're watching my channel. My name is Melody. This channel is called Melody Ever After. If you're still here at this point, you obviously enjoyed the video, so what's stopping me from seeing you in the next one? Until next time.